footage wound up on the cutting room floor. So I'm a has-been before I was ever a was. The work that we do for dolphins around the world is basically, well, we have three strategies for doing things in Japan right now. The first is to raise public awareness around the world and put pressure on the Japanese government, which we've done. It hasn't led to Japan government budging at all, but we've been pushing them as hard as we can. At the same time, we've spent a lot of time working within Japan, particularly with Japanese activists, to bring out the educational issues of why people shouldn't be buying mercury-contaminated dolphin meat and going after the whole dolphin hunts in that way. And we continue on that effort, and that is, as I mentioned, has resulted in a decline in the number of dolphins being killed. When we started with Rick in 2004, about 1,600 dolphins were being killed that year. 1,600 dolphins in Taiji alone. Last year, about 835 were killed. So the numbers have gone down about half. They're still catching a lot of dolphins for captivity, which of course subsidizes the killing of dolphins in Taiji, because they get a lot more money for a captive dolphin that they sell than they do for a dolphin that is killed for meat. If you kill a dolphin and you sell it on the market for meat, you can probably get around $500, maybe $600, depending on the size of the dolphin. If, on the other hand, you train that dolphin and you put it on the open market and the world market for captivity industry, you can get as much as $150,000 or more for a trained live dolphin. So, again, the captivity industry, including the SeaWorlds of the world who are in there, have been very much involved in promoting the behind the scenes, the killing of dolphins in places like Taiji, the Solomon Islands, and other places around the world. So those are the kinds of things I do. A lot of grassroots organizing, a lot of talking to classes like this one and other groups, trying updating them on what's happened since the Cove came out.
Who else wants to ask a question? Yeah, go ahead.
I have two questions. One of them is SeaWorld, do they still have Silicon performing?
The answer is yeah. I saw Telecom actually performing in January when I was in SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. He's still there and he's still performing.
And my other
The
question...
trainers and getting the water with Telecom. So, and with the other orcas, because of the Occupational Health and Safety Administration of the federal government stepped in and said, you know, this is too dangerous for trainers to be swimming around with these animals and riding on top of orcas, as is shown by the death of, unfortunately, Don Branchow and some other trainers. There have been 3 trainers killed in parks, 1 in SeaWorld, I should say, 1 in Laurel Park in Tenerife, which is actually part of the SeaWorld chain, although they're separate entities. And so it's really a fairly dangerous thing, but yes, they still have Telecom doing jumps and other sorts of circus tricks for the public.
and is there any chance that we're importing any type of meat from Japan that contains dolphin meat?
Probably not. There was a sushi shop in LA we got word of that was selling whale meat, and one of our volunteers went behind the scenes with the crew from the Cove, and actually they went and they bought a lot of sushi and they drank a lot, and they said, hey, we'd like to have something special. What do you got special? And they finally brought out some whale meat for them, and they secretly put some of the whale meat into packages so it could be tested for DNA. And basically they were busted, that sushi shop, and it was shut down, and the owners have to pay a very large fine for importing endangered meat. But no, it's illegal to bring marine mammal meat into the United States, and it's unlikely much is coming in here. Mostly it's being used in Japan, although again, not many people are eating it in Japan. A lot of whale meat is actually in storage in Japan because they can't sell it. They've got it in freezer units.
Have there ever been any recorded dolphins attacking trainers in captivity?
Dolphins, I don't know about trainers, probably. They do attack people from time to time. They've bitten people, often by mistake, but also out of anger, irritation. They also ram people with their heads, which can be quite devastating. It can break bones and things like that. Swim with dolphin programs are particularly a bad idea with trained dolphins, even though dolphins are extremely, extremely tolerant as a wild animal. They're still wild animals, remember, and they still will bite and ram people in swim with dolphin programs, and I'm sure it probably happens to trainers, but we don't get much information about that. The companies tend to bury that kind of information.
Do you think you can tell me the mental and physical effects of dolphins and orcas that are in captivity?
Yeah, it's hard to say what the dolphins and whales are thinking, but what we see to a certain extent, Rick O'Berry thinks that they get depressed. It's clinical depression because they're bored. They're extremely intelligent animals, and if you put your head underwater at SeaWorld and take a look, or at any marine park, basically, as you see, it's just a big swimming pool that they're in. There's no variation, there's no none of the kind of things that you would find in the natural environment. You don't see any different substrates, you don't see any different animals, they certainly don't have fish running around in there. It's quite a difficult situation for them to be in. They're very small containers, of course, for these animals that can swim up to 50 miles or more a day when they're hunting for food. So basically, we think that there's a lot of very bad adverse effects on them, which result in clinical depression. That probably hurts their immune system, because it can affect your immunity. If you're depressed, you can get sick more easily, and the same is true of dolphins and whales when they're in captivity and they get depressed. And remember, the captivity industry says that the various things that they do, the circus tricks, are to keep the animals active and excited. But the fact of the matter is that they're repeating those tricks day after day, hour after hour. They work 7 days a week. They're the only zoo animal, aside from seals and sea lions, that actually have to work for a living. They actually have to perform, or they don't get fed. Because that's how you reinforce them in doing the tricks, is withholding food, and then when they do the trick, then you give them the food. So it's a tough life for these animals. They die young. And they die in ways from various diseases, as I mentioned, because of the low immune system. And it's just not a very good place to be putting these highly, highly intelligent animals. It's like putting yourself into a bathtub and keeping you in a bathtub for the rest of your life. It just doesn't work. Yeah, SeaWorld sucks.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Did the fishermen know about mercury poisoning in dolphin meat?
Yes, they sort of deny it. They say that they have a lot of mercury, but it doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt them. There's a lot of denial going on. The Japanese government came in and did some testing after the cove of people in Taiji, and they determined apparently Japanese people generally, because of their high seafood diet, about 80% of Japanese protein comes from the ocean, that the Japanese have about 10 times as much mercury per person as other people around the world, and that the people of Taiji actually have 10 times more mercury than the rest of the people living in Japan. This is due to the high amount of dolphin meat that they eat. Still, the Japanese government denies that there's a problem. They say, oh, well, there's no signs that this is causing problems to the people. There was an article written by a Japanese journalist, which indicated that they didn't use the right test on people to determine whether they were poisoned by mercury. So it's a difficult issue for them to accept, but the general public, I think, is accepting it more and more, which is why they're not buying as much dolphin meat, which is why they're not killing as many dolphins as they were before. They just don't have a market for the dolphin meat.
Questions? What is the lifespan of dolphins in captivity compared to the lifespan of dolphins in the wild?
It's hard to say because there's a lot of debate over that. SeaWorld will tell you that they live just as long in captivity as they do in the wild. That's probably inaccurate, although there are dolphins that live for a very long time in captivity. And the average orcas, for example, in the wild can live up to 50 to 75 years. There's even some that we believe are over 100 years old in the wild from studies that have been done in photo identification. The animals orcas in captivity usually die in their 20s and 30s. But again, SeaWorld says, oh, well, they all live just about the same as animals in captivity as in the wild. And it's part of the debate that's going on.
Questions? Go ahead, Jackie.
How did you guys find out that in Taiji that the dolphin meat was contaminated with mercury?
It's been known for a while. There's a number of organizations before that have tested dolphin meat.